Hey everybody, so we're going to do a chess review today for the test 4. So let's go over that. You should know about the election of 1856 and that James Buchanan wins because the Democrats are the only national party left. I think I have a question about how did President Grant respond to the KKK. He created the Enforcement Acts, or helped pass the Enforcement Acts, which limited Klan violence. You should know what happened with the Kansas-Nebraska crisis, right? Part of it was that you had pro-slavery people, or what you call, pro-slavery people. They fled into southern part of the territory, and opponents of slavery flowed into the northern part, and eventually that breaks out to a civil war. You should know the Civil War begins with the firing on Fort Sumter. You should know the importance of the Emancipation Proclamation, which made the war about slavery. And thus, as I said in my lecture, that you weren't going to see British or French help at that point. You should know why Johnson was impeached. Remember, he violated the Tenure of Office Act by trying to remove a cabinet member without the Senate's permission. Excuse me. You should know who the Republican candidate for president was in 1856, the first Republican candidate. You should know about the Panic of 1857, how that impacted Southerners. You know, Southerners suggested that Northerners should embrace slavery. You also should know about the Lincoln-Douglas debates, which even though Lincoln lost that Senate race, it really made him a viable presidential candidate. You should know about Stephen Douglas's plan with the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which would have allowed, repealed the Missouri Compromise and allowed slavery anywhere north of the 3630 parallel. You should know what the black codes were. We talked about that. It was designed to restore white supremacy. You should know the 13th Amendment. What did that do? Again, you should know that the Kansas-Nebraska Act was a victory for popular sovereignty. You should know the Dred Scott decision and what was Dred Scott's argument. You should know what scallywags were and what carpetbaggers were. And then you should know, how did Lincoln win the 1860 election? He wasn't on any Southern ballots, so he had to sweep all of the free states. You should know, why did John Brown make the raid that he did? What was he trying to do? You should know about the scandal of Jay Gould and James Fisk as they tried to corner the gold market. You should know about the Battle of Bull Run. I think the first Battle of Bull Run showed both sides that this wasn't going to be an easy war. It was going to be a long war. You should know what the lost cause is. It's the lost cause is watching. It's really watching Gone with the Wind, where they showed the plantation, everybody's happy, and really they suggest that the Civil War wasn't about slavery but states' rights when it really was about slavery. You should know what James Buchanan's proposal to response to secession was. He said, "I can't do anything. It's illegal, but I can't do anything." Again, you should know Dred Scott versus Sanford. You should know what the 14th Amendment did. You should know what the Crittenden Compromise suggested. That was to guarantee slavery where it existed by a constitutional amendment. You should know about Lincoln and how he arrested people without charge in Maryland, which was taking away the right of habeas corpus. You should know what popular sovereignty was. You should know what led to the New York City draft riots in 1863. You should know what was the impact of Zachary Taylor's death. It really made a better chance for compromise. I think I said that in my video lecture. You should know the Battle of Fredericksburg, what happened there. You should know what happened at the Battle of Shiloh. It was one of the costliest. I think I told you in the video that we lost more people in that one battle than they had lost in all the wars previously. You should know what was the result of John Brown's raid. It made him a martyr in the North, but set off a panic in the South. You should know what happened at the Battle of Antietam. So watch that video lecture on that. You should know about the election of 1876. That they suggested that no candidate had the Electoral College majority. You should know what caused most of the deaths in the Civil War, and of the 720,000 deaths. Most of it was disease, and that'll be the way it's going to be all the way up until the First World War. You should know the final version of the Compromise of 1850. You should know how Lincoln justified the Emancipation Proclamation. You should know what the 15th Amendment did. You should know what happened at Appomattox Courthouse. That's where Lee surrenders to Grant. You should know about what happened at Gettysburg. You should know that John Brown was involved in the Pottawatomie Creek Massacre, where he attacked pro-slavery settlements and killed people. You should know what the job of the Freedmen's Bureau was. You should know what Lincoln's 10% plan was. You should know the Wilmot Proviso. And by the way, almost all this stuff I have covered in the video lectures. You should know why Uncle Tom's Cabin infuriated slave owners. Now, we didn't cover that in a lecture, but you can read about it in your book. And then what eventually caused the collapse of the Whig Party. I talked about that in a lecture. And then talk about the Lecompton Constitution in Kansas. And why was Preston Brooks considered a hero in the South? Talked about that in the Compromise of 1850 lecture that I did. And then why was the Compromise of 1877 very important? And then the last question, tell me why the new Fugitive Slave Act after 1850 was important. So that's the test. I mean, if you know that stuff, you should be good. And most of it's in the video lectures that I've done. So good luck on the test, and the next lecture I'll do will be a review for the final.